Today we're going to talk about a new feature in version 1.5 of the core HL7 listener. It's the ability to transform the HL7 message and or the acknowledgement as the messages come in, and we're going to do it using two real world scenarios that we've had. These are real scenarios from real clients. We'll do the scenario one first. We have a client that sends us HL7 messages in the listener, but what the client does is they put a GUID, a GUID, in the message control ID. That's not HL7 compliant. Whatever the system is that you use to consume those messages will reject them if the message ID isn't compliant and the client sending the messages is unable or unwilling to change the messages that they send. What can be done? Let's get started. In our core listener today, we're going to be working with this profile, Kaitaya Hospital. It's running in a private service. It doesn't have to be running in a private service, and since I'm going to need to edit this profile, I want to stop the service that it's running in. Now I have a demo file of messages that we're going to work with. Here it is. This is the offensive thing in scenario number one. They're putting a GUID in the message control ID, and we need a HL7 standard message control ID. To just show how this works, we're going to use our core HL7 sender, which as you can see is sending to this port on this computer, and I have that demo file loaded up with 10 messages ready to send. To do the transformation, we just have to edit the profile, select it, click edit, or you can double click. We go to the advanced and optional settings and say that you want to transform the message or the acknowledgement. I hit the plus button to add a transformation instruction. I'm going to do a new instruction, and what is our field? It's the message control ID. That's the MSH segment, field number 10, component number 1. There is no subcomponent, so I'm going to set that to 0 just to make sure. And what do we want to do? We want a message control ID. It says it replaces the component value with an HL7 compliant value for MSH 10.1. And that's it. I embed this message transformation, save my profile, start my service. So now we're listening for messages, and let's go see what happens. Start sending. Here are the messages and the response. As you can see, I sent a message like this. Now if we go over to here, and let's take a look in the folder. There's my 10 messages. I've got another core viewer up here that I'm going to just import those messages in. Put them in the message store, and here they are. These are the same 10 messages. They're identical in every way, except now they have an HL7 compliant message control ID. Now if I go over to the traffic log that's being created, I can edit this. I'll make this bigger. Here's what's in the traffic log. I have a timestamp, the message control ID that I changed, and then the other values that show up in the traffic log. You can refer to the online help for what those are. And that's how easy it was. The messages that came in are transformed, and we've got now an HL7 compliant message control ID that our system will not reject. Now we're going to move on to scenario 2. Now if we recall scenario 2, we have a client that receives HL7 messages using the core listener that were sent by a medical device. The device manufacturer requires that the HL7 acknowledgement message returned place the word ACK in component 3 of the message type field. That's the MSH field 9. This isn't required by any HL7 standard, and thus it's not handled by the core listener, so we have to do it another way. I'm going to edit the profile, so I need to make sure that my service is stopped. I'm also going to go into the global settings and make sure that we're archiving the acknowledgements, saving all the acknowledgements that is received by our listener. Now, edit my profile, advanced and optional settings. If I wanted to clear that previous solution, I could just click the X, but I'm going to add a new instruction. And what are we doing? In the MSH, field number 9, component number 3, I'll take the subcomponent out. We need to put a static value of ACK, A-C-K. And I'll put a conditional instruction on here that says I only want to do this if that value is empty. So if there's somebody's already put a value in there, ignore this. Do that. I embed the transformation. Click OK to save my profile, and I can start my listener. Now, let's take a look at what was happening. Here's the results from our last test. You can see this is the acknowledgement that the core listener sent back. The core listener sends back a standard HL7 acknowledgement. This is what we've put in the message type field, ACK, and we're mirroring the event. That's a checkbox in your profile. But let's see what happens now. I'm just going to click Start Sending. I'm going to send the same messages again, and it's done. Here's the acknowledgement that we got back, but this time there's a third property, and it has the word ACK in it. If I go to my core viewer, and let's say that I want to import all the messages from Kaitaya, and I'll go to the traffic log because that's where the ACKs are kept, and just say import them. There's 10 messages, and there they are. These are just the acknowledgements, and all the way through every message. And that's it. That's how you do transformations in the core HL7 listener. It's easy, it's quick, and if you need it, it's there. Download any of our software from transworldscribe.com and play with it. And that's the end of our video.